So let's get to Abuja. Ajuri's got the next phase of this.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Welcome back to Abuja. Standing by with us is Barrister Esther Uzoma, a legal practitioner. You're very welcome to the program this morning.
Thank you very much, Ajuri.
So you've been watching, just as we all have, the unfolding developments concerning the Electoral Act Amendment. What's your first take?
Well, first of all, I salute the prophecies of the court. I've always maintained that position, which is, by the way, in law with a plethora of decided authorities, from PDP against Silva, Abiodun Adeleke and INEC. The Supreme Court have always maintained that INEC, the power to set the sequence or set dates for election, is a constitutional power that resides with INEC, by virtue of a constitutional provision. Therefore, it is absurd to think that you can alter a constitutional power by the amendment of an electoral act. You can't do that. In AG, Attorney General of Abia State and Attorney General of the Federation, the Supreme Court said, listen, that when the Constitution makes provision for the doing of an act, and that for the performing of a function, and that an act also makes similar provisions, that the constitutional provision will always, override it. Therefore, the alteration to the Amendment Act that said elections will be conducted in accordance with the Electoral Act, and then the attempt to amend the Electoral Act to set this, still does not take away the constitutional power vested in INEC by virtue of Section 153, as contained in its law schedule, that no, INEC has the power. So I celebrate the prophecies of the court.
One of the many arguments that the National Assembly has put forward is that the language is, in their view at least, ambiguous. That if the terms used in the Constitution, for example, undertake, supervise, and organize, that these terms don't necessarily dictate that they cannot.
Sequence.
Yes, the sequence, only dates. What's your response to that?
Well, it's their point of view. It is in the nature of man to find reasons for the actions they want to undertake. That is why we're human. If a human being wants to do something, they always look for a reason to do it. In spite of the glaring prophecies of the court on this particular issue, well, the court has spoken. That is where we are. Even though their power of, to seek further interpretation is there. But this, I believe very strongly that this is, the position that the court will assume up to the Supreme Court.
We've heard the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Yakubu Dogara, make a pronouncement in recent weeks that, in his view, there has been some level of judicial irresponsibility, that, in his view, the judiciary is threatening to, threatening the ability of the National Assembly to conduct its affairs in terms of stopping some of the activities of the National Assembly, and that there is a potential that they could even begin to disobey court orders.
Wow.
What is your thought about that?
Wow. These are very strong statements. Well, granted that it appears that the court took an action, that, to an extent, puts the spanner in the wheels of the functioning, of the lawmakers. But then, where has two wrongs ever made a right? It is in the interest of this country that all of us obey the law. It is in our own common, it's an existential question. Because if we begin to disobey the law, if we begin to make a mess of the very laws that guide us, where do we go from here? What you will see is that ethnic champions, security warlords will begin to emerge. Primordial sense of security will begin to emerge. People will start having their own courts. Villages will start having their own police. And it might not necessarily be in tandem with what the Nigerian state, the position of the Nigerian state. Therefore, even though the courts, granted an order that curtailed, that put a will, that said, listen, stop the process, the constitutional process of lawmaking for a while. That still does not give the National Assembly or any other person, the leverage, to say, listen, we will start disobeying court orders. You do not do that.
I want to make sure that I get you very clear. In your view, what seems to be a separate matter could actually be feeding into a larger situation in which we're sliding into anarchy.
No, that is where we are. The prophecies of the courts, when people think they have power, they hold it, they despise the prophecies of our hallowed halls of justice. What then holds us together? Where is our Nigerianness? If we desecrate our laws with so much delinquency, where is our Nigerianness? The only thing that holds us together is that all of us are subject to the law. Therefore, we cannot celebrate any attempt of any person or entity to exist outside the fringes of the law.
But Barrister, you know as well as I do, you look back particularly at our modern history from 1999 within this republic, there have been pretty consistent trends, it's not today, consistent trends of the law being disregarded, especially by those who have the power to disregard the law, at least the sacred cows that we talk about across tiers and sectors. Don't you think that this slide we're seeing is something that started long ago? Well,
it started long ago, but then that voice, of reason have never stopped, towering. Don't go there. Don't do this. Look at the danger. But what we are seeing in recent times is unprecedented. We've never had it like this before. Look at the killings in Benue. Look at the sea of blood. I'm talking about what keeps happening every day. Look at the seeming helplessness of the state. Even our security agencies, the security personnel, they are even victims of this carnage. So wherein lies our salvation? Will people keep quiet and then they will be killed by outlaws? I'm talking about outlaws. And this state, the presidency, is actually considering the question of amnesty for people who are existing outside the fringes of the law. Outlaws. You see, so we cannot go there. We are saying it, and we'll keep bellowing it. Otherwise, let me tell you, this fire, this Inferno that is coming, if the tortoise that wears an iron cast shell is not spared by the Inferno, believe me, the fowl with its feathered gown will not survive it. It will just be roasted chicken.